Dear listeners, welcome to Reddit Audio Tales. Today we bring you a shocking story of love, betrayal, and deception. Imagine finding your perfect partner, planning a future together, only to discover she's still married to her ex. And worse, they're both after your money. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this wild tale of how one man uncovered the truth and made them regret ever trying to scam him. I'm a 33-year-old man, and up until a few months ago, I genuinely thought I had found my ideal partner. My fiancée, a charming and seemingly straightforward woman, entered my life a year ago. She radiated confidence, spoke passionately of wanting a fresh start after claiming she'd ended a painful marriage, and talked about building a home with me. I believed every word. I'd met her through a mutual acquaintance at a casual gathering. Her eyes lit up whenever I mentioned my small business venture. I'd been running a modest supply company for a while. She asked countless questions, praising my ambition. At the time, it flattered me and I never suspected her deeper motives. Things escalated quickly. Within months, I proposed, convinced I'd found someone who admired me for who I was. She accepted with tears, hugging me, exclaiming about how she'd finally found real love after her horrible act. I asked vaguely about her past marriage, but she insisted they'd gotten divorced out of state and parted ways for good. I had no reason to doubt. We set a wedding date, started discussing finances, living arrangements. She mentioned her previous marriage had ended on nasty terms, that she had no contact with her ex. Little by little, those suspicious clues emerged. A big red flag came when we were sorting through files for a mortgage application. I noticed she never produced an official divorce decree. She deflected, saying she'd misplaced it or the lawyer never gave a final copy. I let it slide, trusting she'd rectify it. Meanwhile, we progressed with wedding details. She grew oddly pushy about finalizing certain joint assets, like co-signing on my business expansions. She'd nudge me, saying we're going to be married soon. Why not make me a partial owner so we can build a future together? That set me on edge. There was a note of entitlement in her voice. Still, I tried dismissing it as eagerness. Then one weekend, while cleaning our shared closet, I found a hidden file behind some old boxes. Inside were documents referencing a pending divorce case in another state. Not a concluded divorce pending. My heart skipped. I read bits of it, noticing dates that overlapped with our engagement, so she'd never finalized that prior marriage, if it even ended at all. Confusion and anger churned in me. She'd basically been lying about being freaked to marry me. I confronted her that night, brandishing the papers. She panicked, stuttering. She admitted she was still sorting out the official paperwork, that the final decree got delayed, but it was just a formality. She repeated that her relationship with her ex was over. I felt uneasy but let her keep explaining. She insisted they were separated in every sense. Only the final legal stamp was missing. I wanted to believe her, but it stung that she kept it hidden. I told her to finalize it immediately. She promised she would, expressing regret for not being transparent. Yet something felt deeper than a mere technical glitch. Over the next week, I probed quietly, checking online records from that other state. Indeed, her divorce was pending, but an update listed complications with no final hearing scheduled. More strangely, I found zero references to a prior hearing that might indicate an imminent closure. My anxiety soared. Meanwhile, my fiancée kept pestering me about business expansions. We should list each other as co-owners. She used sweet talk, praising our financial synergy. Made my hair stand on end. One evening I was alone at home. She was out meeting a friend. I decided to do a deeper search. I had enough details from those hidden files, plus she'd once let slip the ex's last name. With some dedicated searching, I found the ex's social media. To my shock, I saw a post from mere weeks ago referencing my wife. The ex wrote stuff like, "Despite a rough patch, we're staying strong." My heart pounded. This was no typical ex. He was referencing an ongoing marriage. The photos of them looking cozy were posted only last month. I reeled from that discovery. So not only was my fiancé's divorce not finalized, it appeared they were still actively married, possibly living some double life. The ex's social media mentioned traveling for work, so maybe she used that as an excuse to slip away and stay with me. Furious, I texted her, politely asking when she'd be home. She answered with some vague time. I waited, adrenaline pumping, determined to demand the full truth. She returned late, wearing a relaxed smile as though nothing was amiss. I confronted her directly. "Why does your so-called ex still call you his wife on social media?" Her face froze. Then she tried to spin a story that he refused to move on, that she was helpless about what he posted. I retorted that the pictures were recent, showing them hugging. She stammered, "He's manipulative." I just wanted to keep the peace until the final hearing. My blood boiled. She insisted she was faking niceness with him to smooth the divorce process. Yet I recalled her push to co-sign on my business expansions. Something sinister was brewing. I demanded her phone to see if she was still in contact. She reluctantly handed it over, but her messages were thoroughly deleted like a fresh perch. That alone was suspicious. She claimed it was to move forward, but I was sure she was hiding ongoing communication with him. I told her we were done planning the wedding until she resolved her existing marriage. She looked panicked, changed tactics, swearing she was completely done with him emotionally. She pleaded, "Don't call off the wedding. I just didn't want to lose you if you discovered the divorce wasn't final." Anger overcame me, but part of me wanted a calm approach to gather more proof. I played along, feigning partial acceptance. I demanded that she produce official divorce papers or show me immediate steps to finalize it. She nodded vigorously, promising to handle it within the month. Meanwhile, I quietly resolved to consult a lawyer. If she was still married, any co-signing or financial entanglement with me could be disastrous, potentially letting her and her actual husband come after my assets. Days later, the hidden truth exploded further. The ex showed up at my doorstep one afternoon looking smug. He introduced himself as her husband, demanding we talk. My jaw clenched. He said he was aware she was shacking up with me. Then, to my shock, he said they both wanted an arrangement. I'd pay them a certain sum so they'd quickly finalize the divorce, freeing her to marry me. He spoke like a conspirator, referencing how my fiancée told him about my growing business. He implied if I paid them tens of thousands, they'd expedite the divorce. Otherwise, they'd drag it out. My mind reeled at the brazenness. They were effectively blackmailing me using marriage laws of leverage. He also hinted that if I refused, they might sue me for alienation of affection or some nonsense. I'd heard enough. I told him to get off my property. He smirked, saying, "Think carefully, buddy." When my fiancée returned that night, I confronted her about her ex's extortion attempt. She tried, feigning shock. I had no idea he'd do that. But her eyes darted, and I recalled her push for me to sign expansions. It all fit. She and her husband might be colluding to drain me financially, using a sham fiancé status. My anger soared. I demanded she leave my house immediately. She broke down, swearing she didn't plan on scamming me, that her ex was manipulating her. I told her to pack her things. She refused, wailing that we should just pay him off to keep life simple. I realized then she was in on it. I forced her out that night, placing her belongings in garbage bags, leaving them on the porch. She screamed about how she had nowhere to go. I told her to find a hotel or bunk with her husband if that's how it was. She hurled insults, "You're paranoid, we were so close to happiness," playing victim. I locked the door, ignoring her pounding. Eventually she left. The next morning, I visited a lawyer, explaining the entire fiasco. He was stunned by their brazen attempt to extort. He advised me to gather all evidence, texts referencing money, any messages with demands. I realized I need to be vigilant. If she tried legal threats, I'd be prepared. In the following days, I faced a barrage of texts and voicemails from her and her husband. She tried tearful pleas, claiming, "We can fix this if you just help finalize my divorce." He tried intimidation, reminding me they could drag my name through the mud. My lawyer told me not to engage. We drafted a stern cease and desist letter, threatening legal action if they continued harassment or slander. Then, unbelievably, they tried a new angle. The ex showed up again, claiming my fiancée was pregnant. My jaw tightened. This was the second time in my life hearing a suspect pregnancy claim from a partner, ironically. He insisted that if she was pregnant, I'd be stuck financially if they pinned paternity on me. I nearly laughed in disbelief. She was presumably still sleeping with her actual husband, so how would that be mine? Another manipulative trick. I told him to get lost, that I'd demand a paternity test if she claimed it was mine. He sneered, muttering about how they'd take me for everything. That solidified my resolve. I considered going to the police about their attempted extortion but decided to proceed carefully. My lawyer recommended building a strong civil case if they tried to claim anything in the courts. Meanwhile, I rekeyed the locks, set up additional security on my property. My fiancé, ex-fiancé now effectively, kept texting me, "We can fix this, just pay him, we can be together." Ridiculous. She was basically admitting collusion. I screenshot every message, archiving them. That combined with a hush-money approach from her made for a strong defense if they escalated. A few weeks later, I discovered a final blow. My ex-fiancé's job fired her, presumably for suspicious behavior or a conflict, possibly relating to her boss fiasco. She was desperate and so was her husband, presumably unemployed or struggling. They likely saw me as an easy mark, a stable businessman ripe for fleecing. Now that I'd wised up, they were floundering. My father or mother not relevant. Possibly out. Great. At that point, I decided it was time for a decisive confrontation. My lawyer said we could serve them an official notice disclaiming any liability plus a threat of defamation lawsuit if they continued. We set a final meeting in a neutral location, a small conference room at my lawyer's office. The ex-husband and my ex-fiancée arrived, wearing smug, expecting me to fold. The ex-husband tried leading with their proposal. I paid them a sum to finalize the divorce quickly and I'd marry her. I stifled laughter at the audacity. My lawyer calmly presented them with a stack of documented evidence, her statement of being married, messages about wanting me to co-sign expansions, the hush money demands. He said, if you continue harassing or defaming my client, we'll file charges for extortion. Their faces paled. My ex-fiancée sputtered, you can't do that. We were just discussing options. My lawyer pointed out the direct references to money in exchange for a quick divorce. The ex-husband tried claiming it was a big misunderstanding. The lawyer gave him a chance to withdraw any claims. At that, they caved, looking desperate. They realized they'd get no penny from me. They left, cursing me, vowing revenge but with no real leverage. I felt a surge of triumph. The scamming couple, who tried using me as a piggy bank, left empty-handed. I parted ways with relief, though a bitterness lingered. My trust had been shredded. My fiancé turned out to be a con. But at least they didn't manage to rob me. A few days later, word reached me that my ex-fiancée and her husband were furious I'd outmaneuvered them. They whined to a few mutual acquaintances about how I was greedy, refusing to help with just a bit of money. The acquaintances, upon hearing the full story, took my side. Who wouldn't? Once they realized my ex was never divorced and planning to co-scam me with her real husband, they apparently ended up moving to another city, hoping to find new marks or fix their finances. I settled back into normal life. My mental scars from this fiasco took time to heal. I nearly married someone who was already married, who tried to rope me into an extortion scheme. But the relief overshadowed the pain. I changed locks, updated security, ensured my finances were bulletproof from future infiltration. My business continued to grow steadily, untainted by their manipulations. Occasionally, I'd recall how close I came to co-signing expansions with her, which could have opened me to massive liability. I shudder at that nearness. Some mutual acquaintances asked if I'd ever forgive her. I doubt it. Her betrayal wasn't just personal but financial, orchestrating a con with her so-called ex. I let them vanish from my life. My father or mother not relevant. Possibly never found out or not. Good. Let them keep their drama. Sometimes at night, I wonder if there were earlier hints I ignored, the overly eager push for my business details, the secrecy about her divorce. But regrets can't change the past. I choose to learn from it. One final coda. My lawyer told me that if they tried anything else, like forging claims or defaming me, I had grounds to countersue with a proof of their scam attempt. That knowledge comforted me. It's also a testament to the importance of vigilance in new relationships, especially if the other person pushes for quick merges of money. My ex was cunning but not cunning enough. Hence the story's moral. I discover my fiancée was secretly still married to her ex, and they both came after my money, expecting me to be naive. I refused. I confronted them with legal muscle and made them regret their scheme. They left empty-handed, presumably bankrupt. That's justice in my eyes. I might be single again, but I'll take single and financially secure over being swindled in a fake engagement. Ultimately, I escaped with my resources intact and a renewed wariness about manipulative partners. Better this outcome than a lifetime entangled in their deception. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing Reddit tales. Your support helps us bring you more incredible stories. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe and stay sharp.